Awesome. Good evening, everybody. My name's Tyrone Elkington from Harbour Sport. So I'm the sport development lead at Harbour Sport. And with me tonight, we have Emily Hodges, community sport advisor. We also have Mel Sykes, our funding advisor at Harbour Sport. And we also have Tom Smith from Lion Foundation. So pretty good lineup of people here today. And obviously everyone's here to learn how they can increase their ability to obtain successful grants. And the beauty of having Tom here is that we can engage with with the grant funding organisation. Just going to share my screen here. Cool. Em, if you can give me a thumbs, if you can give me a yes to say that you can see it. Can you see that, Em?
Yeah, all good, Ty.
Sweet as. Awesome. So today's agenda is the way it's going to work is, so we'll go through the session outcomes and objectives of today's workshop. We'll then go through some general principles that you can use before the process of applying for grants and what you can do during to give you the best possible advantage of obtaining successful grants. Emily will then take you through how to develop a funding plan and how you can use it as a successful tool. I'll then take you through where to find potential grants, because obviously I know that's obviously a sticking point. Where do we go to first? Tom will then take us through sort of the nuances around Class 4 gaming and some tips and tricks around that. And then Mel Sykes will jump on later and go through some of the latest RST funds that are available for the community. Just some ground rules. So obviously you guys come on with your video off and with your speakers muted. If you can keep your video off, some of the speakers can see the faces of people in the corner of the screen, and it just helps in terms of that visual aspect. And then mute your speakers if possible. If you have questions, please do so by asking the chat function, which should be down the bottom. We will open up opportunities for people to ask questions throughout the slides, just in case there are questions that are too hard to type. And you need to ask someone directly the question. So hopefully only go for about 45 minutes, an hour max. This is a knowledge building webinar, so there'll be plenty of information to take on board. So make sure you take notes, ask questions, and if you don't get the opportunity, we'll provide the opportunity at the end. Cool. And so the outcomes of this webinar, by the end, if we're going to hang our hat on it, we hope that one, you discover best practice principles to help with your grant funding applications. We'll go through the importance of a funding calendar. Ultimately, we'll show you where to find potential funders. You'll hear from Tom, who will talk about opportunities with Class 4 gaming organisations. Mel will then talk about the funding opportunities through the RST network, and then we'll provide some further support for you at the end. Cool. So I'll just run through some general principles. To some, this won't be anything new, but these are just some key pillars that can help you applying for a grant and during as well. So that first one there, developing a plan. So when you're going for any of your applications, make sure you have a plan in place. Funding organisations will quickly realise the ones that don't, and they'll quickly get pushed aside. So this could be linked to your annual strategic plan. So just ensuring that whatever you're doing, there is a process involved with it. So make sure you are identifying clearly what project you need funding for. So at the start of the year, you'll identify your projects that you may have throughout the calendar year, whether it's a women and girls program, etc., equipment. Make sure you write them down and then put an asterisk next to it through the ones that you're going to need funding for. Then for the projects that you're going to look to get funding for, make sure you have clear objectives and goals. As mentioned earlier around the plan and funding organisations, they'll soon quickly know whether you put the time in beforehand or whether it's just one that's drawn up pretty quickly. Next one, identify funding sources. So We'll touch on this later. We'll show you some places where you can look. But once you have found them, make sure you look for the funding criteria and ensure that the criteria that the funding organization has aligns with the project that you're looking to undertake. And then one that probably I experience quite a bit with community groups is that they don't actually get in touch with the funder. So I'm sure Tom will allude to it later, but feel free to just to pick up the phone, send an email, and just talk through your project, and they may give you some tips and tricks there. Another big one, identified need. So if you're looking to put on a project and you're saying this and that, you need to make sure that you are evidence and insights led. So you need to have some hard stats and figures to back up basically what you're saying, and it just adds a bit of weight to your application for your project. Monitoring and evaluation. So how do you intend to measure the effectiveness of your project? So you want to make sure that, so you presented your project, but how at the end are you going to know that it's effective? And it's one thing that the funding organizations be really big on. You need to prove, you have your KPIs in place and your measures that you're going to measure the project on. And then finally, you want to make sure you develop a funding calendar. So this goes back to developing a plan. So this ensures that you are more proactive as opposed to reactive. And then, planning for the future creates accountability and a path. So Emily is going to take you through how you go about developing a funding calendar and also some tips in behind it as well.
Cool, thanks, Ty. So as he highlighted, to increase your chance of gaining funding, you need to be proactive versus reactive. This means having a clear plan and direction. So the first aspects that you need to gain direction on are what you need and when you need it by. So for example, if you need new equipment and you know you're going to need it before the start of the season. So this means listing out and forecasting all of the expenses that you want and that you're going to need to be covered and their expected cost. Ty, if you flip to the next slide, please. So for example, here we've got equipment, tournament fees, travel costs. It's really helpful to put these expenses in order by date, like I've done here. This indicates kind of urgency of them. So if you know you have a tournament coming up in the next few months and you know you're going to need some funding for it, that kind of is at the top of the list of when you need it by. Next, you're going to need to identify grant funders that could potentially fund these expenses. This means researching them, finding out what funds they have available and their funding priorities. What I mean by this is that funders often fund specific groups, and this may differ between them. For example, one funder may fund sporting organisations versus another for community groups who serve community purposes. Therefore, you need to find a funder that aligns to you and what you're needing to be covered. So once you have a list of potential funders, you need to note down application deadlines and work back from the state. We've put together a basic checklist of how you develop a funding calendar and which you guys can work to. So if Ty, could you put to the next one, please? So this is a calendar template that you guys can use. So yeah, this is the checklist.
Next one.
Cool. Yeah, so that's the checklist there. So you guys can work back from those dates. We also have great resources which highlight what grant funders there are across Auckland, who they fund and their funding priorities and which local boards they serve. And we have that template that Ty just showed you as well, which you guys can use and personalize. As Ty said, having a plan makes you accountable and gives you a long-term plan over the year. If you find out exactly what you need to be covered and you're proactive about it, the chances of you gaining funding is a lot higher than short-term and rushed applications. Cool, thanks, Ty.
Cool. So the next part is where can you go to look for potential grants? Don't worry about writing down all the URLs here. We will send out this PowerPoint presentation to everyone that is on the call. So I'll go through a few examples. So in terms of gaming trusts, if I just click here, it should take me through. So this takes you to a domain where it shows all the societies that make grants in the Auckland region. So down here, they're segmented by local boards. So for example, let's go to Upper Harbour. So from the Upper Harbour region, I might be a club in Albany. These are the sort of the organisations that have machines in the area. Therefore, you can apply, should you meet the criteria, under one of these organisations. So we have Lion Foundation here. Bang, they have machines at the mall. Cool. Another avenue you can go, Auckland Council, local boards. So if I click through to here, this takes us to the grants page. So here we have the grants calendar, which I'll click into soon. It's very useful. It tells you when the applications are due by and when the project must start. If you want to go for a more focused sort of search, then you can look up the local board grants. So if I just click into here, you'll find the local board that you sit under. Might be Upper Harbour again. And here we go. Local board grant. It's up to 2,000 plus available. And they actually have around that's open now for projects that start on the 1st of June 2021. So we nudge, if you sit under Upper Harbour, Takapuna, Devonport, Hibiscus Bays and Kaipatiki local boards, these grants will be open relatively the same time. So you've got plenty of time to get those applications underway. Cool. Another one, good place to look is Sport New Zealand. Brilliant. So here they have some of the old funds that they had. So the Community Resilience Fund, the Te Manawa Active Aotearoa Fund, which Mel will talk to soon. So these are the RST-based funds. They also have a few targeted funds as well. And for a more Auckland sort of targeted funds, we can go into active. And in here, we have the Te Manawa Fund as well, and the Junior Players and Working Together Fund, which were two new funds, which Mel will touch on later. So that's just 4 examples there of places where you can look. As mentioned earlier, we'll send these out so you can have a play around yourself and do the homework. Brilliant. So I'll just stop sharing this. We're going to pass on to Tom now from Lion Foundation. I'll just get up his slides.
Thanks, Ty.
Brilliant. Just give me a sec.
So just while Ty's bringing that up, this is about a 30-minute funding workshop that we do at Lion quite regularly. But for now, you guys, I'll whistle through it in like 5-10 minutes. But if you ever want to watch it back, there's a full version on our website that you can go and see, and you can absolutely just dip in and out of that as you want. There's also videos on how to complete a form and lots of other stuff that you can use there. I can't see a screen at the minute. Am I the only one who can't see that? Here we go. I got it now, yeah. Just quickly, the Lion Foundation. I'm not going to read off these slides. We're one of 30 plus gaming societies and trusts that run gaming machines throughout New Zealand. You would have heard of others from NZCT and Pub Charity to Akarana, Consolation, absolutely loads of them. So I'm just going to try and talk you through a few ways that you can do better of them. So the Lion Foundation, we're not the Lions Club. We're not the blue and yellow guys that do some cool playgrounds in your local community. And we're not the brewery either. So we're very much gaming machines in about 120 venues nationally, of which you'll find quite a few over on the shore as well. You flick through, Ty, cheers. We're class 4 gaming. We call it class 4. It's not casinos. It's not lotto. It's purely gaming machines, or as you more colloquially will know them as pokies. The difference between lotto, between the casino sector, between the TAB, is that we're told to give the money back, and we have to give a minimum of 40% back, and quite regularly you'll see the majority give up to 45% back once costs come out. So the whole puzzle of class 4 gaming in New Zealand is around 900 million, and it's roughly a third. It's the best way to describe it. $300 million in tax for the government, for Jacinda to go and spend on hospitals and schools and everything else that we need in society. 300 million to run the business, put the machines in the pubs, pay the staff, pay all the machine licenses, keep the DIA happy, regulations, blah, blah, blah. And then that leaves 300 million, if not a little bit more, that goes to the community. So that puts ambulances on streets, it puts respirators in hospitals, and it puts shirts on the backs of kids and balls in your cricket pitch. So huge, absolutely huge sum. If it were to go, it's not a 300 million problem to government, it's a $600 million problem to government. So absolutely huge sector, one that I'm sure a lot of you are aware on, but kind of needs a bit more promotion out there. We're not allowed to market machines, but we end up not telling people enough about who we are and what we do and the good the money does. So that's class 4. Can you apply? Right. If you can apply if you're a registered charity, really easy to become a charity in this country. There must be, because there's 4.5 million of you and over 30,000 charities. So there's about 150 people per charity. So if you've got charity status, so you've got a CC number, you're all good. Or if you're an incorporated society and you've got evidence of exemption from income tax, then absolutely sweet, crack on, get an application in. We'd love to see it. Whilst I'm on that slide, actually, I'm just going to go back. The picture on there is a venue map, and I'm just going to make reference to that now. It's probably the most important tool on any society's website. So go to their website, look at the venue map, zoom in on the North Shore, make sure you know where your venues are and who owns that venue. The website the DIA Ty showed you just now, also really good, but these venues change hands all the time. There is the council policy, there is only so many machines and venues in Auckland. The current council policy is what we call a sinking lid. Even though your population is rising dramatically year on year, there are no more machines, there is no more money. The money is what we've got in Auckland. They will just move around for societies. And I'll give you an example. The best performing venue in Auckland is in Wairau Park, and it's a Valentine's buffet. We owned that up until Monday. Okay, the buffet restaurant Valentine's, we own that up until Monday. It's now been taken over by Youth Town. And also there's one called the Sapphire Lounge, just been taken off our hands by Grassroots Trust. So make sure you're aware of all these different funders. Use the website that Ty showed you earlier, but also go to their page and get an updated thing about where the money is generated, because the point of class 4 funding is to return it to its point of origin. And most societies will want to give back to 5 kilometers radius from where the money was generated. Now that can be where your office is as an organization, or where you participate, or where you deliver. So you can use the right postcode to get yourself closest to the right funder who's got the right venue. So go, make sure you know where your venues are locally. Ty mentioned the mall earlier, that's one of ours. If you know where your venues are, you'll know who better to apply to. And they do change, so keep an eye on them. We fund anything. The first question, does it have a charitable purpose? And within the sports world, we pretty much tick the boxes straight away that we're trying to get people fitter or active. Don't come for the top of the pyramid. You can't do a sports presentation without talking about a participation pyramid. Do not apply for stuff at the top of the pyramid. We don't want to support super duper, super fit people to make them even fitter. We want to support people that are either just getting into sport, people that aren't even into sport, or be healthier. So bottom of the pyramid stuff, grassroots stuff, you're going to stand a much better chance.
We just have a question in the chat function. So does a personal relationship with venue owners make a difference to approvals?
No. So that would be a conflict of interest, and that would be grants influence. If you were to start exhibiting that sort of behavior, your grant would get thrown out. Nice that you know the venue owner, but try and stay out of it. The grants world should not hit a relationship with the owner occupier of a venue. Keep them separate. You're absolutely welcome to apply, but please do keep it separate. It will actually do your grant more damage than good if you start talking about that, because it will conflict us all. And if we've seen it and know it, we'll have to refuse that grant. So cool if you do, try not to mention it. The owners will say to me, oh, Tom, so-and-so, Glenfield will want to apply. Great, put them on to me, and that's it. That's at the end of the relationship. Try and keep it separate. Good question. Sorry, Ty, jump forward and I'll get through these slides, I promise. I know I'm talking fast. This is just a quick list of stuff that we can fund. Bad news, we can't fund international travel expenses. Not that anyone's going anywhere at the minute. More bad news, we can't fund grog and we can't fund food, but lots of other stuff, from travel expenses to sporting expenses to kits. We can fund everything apart from your socks. I'm not going to go into why, but we can't fund socks, but we can fund kit that remains the property of the team. We cannot fund individuals. So if you do something, make sure the club retain use of it. We can fund it. If it's going to go to Tom Smith, nah. So if it's a personalized training jacket for Tom Smith, no. If it's a kit for 1 to 15 in the team that's going to be worn by different people throughout the season, yeah. Cool. Jump forward. There's a link to the DIA website at the end. The application process is either online, or if you really like the 1990s and the early noughties, you can do it on a paper form with pen. People do like it still. We get a lot of forms on paper still, but there's an online system. Please do use the online system if you can. It's far easier for us to process as a team. You can upload documents. It saves it so you can replicate it year on year. It saves you a lot of work. You can also email it for second signatory, so you don't have to chase a board member around to the other side of Auckland. Far easier to do it online. Lots of this information is on our website, so I'm not going to spend ages going all over that. We don't run a cut-off date. We process everything that comes in 6 to 8 weeks maximum. Most we do in 4 to 6 weeks. If it gets busy, it goes up to 8 weeks. If you've got a project, be applying 3 months out is my advice. So what Emily was talking to you about a calendar, perfect. Go 3 months out and you will never have a problem. You want to jump on, Ty? Lots of bits and bobs, and the online system's great because you can upload documents one by one, and what it'll do is save as you go along. So anything from cover letters to a resolution, so just minuted in a meeting that you're applying for funding and the amount of funding that you're going for. Some proof of your status of organisation. We will need to see your last signed off financials. So whether that's a deposit slip, and it needs to be within the last 18 months. If you're coming in for an item, we will always ask you for 2 quotes, unless you're applying for something bespoke or you've got long-term relationships with a preferred supplier, we can kind of get that through. But if you're going to get a new rugby kit, get us a quote from A and B. We have to show value for money. So unfortunately, you will be getting the money for the cheapest quote. And then salaries, we don't do a lot of new salaries. You guys can pay for people by putting in coaching hours. So whilst we won't fund a salary of an individual, we will fund a 12-week soccer program with 4 hours coaching a week at $50 an hour. That's $200 a week times 12, which is $2,400. You get a quote for that. You can put that in. That's contracting fees. You can absolutely fund your people that way. Yeah, cool. There's a big checklist on the form. Make sure you do the checklist because there's stuff that people miss off. And if you miss it off, we have to send it back to you. Then you have to send it back to me and I send it back to you again. Then when you send it back and it takes ages. So when you do your form, just make sure it's complete, make sure it's signed. Yeah, cool. That's the checklist. These are just some examples of some things we funded. So you can jump through these. Ty, John Walker, Find Your Field of Dreams, Challenge 2000 Trust. These are all Northern grants and Central Kids Mill Crescent. So, you know, we fund anything from $300 to $300,000. So there's probably not a grant that we, you know, haven't made across New Zealand that hasn't affected pretty much all of New Zealand at some point. Thanks, mate. Right, once you're approved, my team would kill me if I don't say this. Spend the money, please spend the money. We don't want it back. It gives me more headaches later. So you'll have an audit time frame. If your project was going to be done in 3 months, we'll set your audit to 3 months. The maximum you can have is 12 months to reconcile that money. And all you do is keep quotes that when you've paid for stuff, send them back in, or on your bank accounts, highlight where you spent that money, send that through to us, and that's how you audit. You can only spend it on what we gave you permission for. We use the term authorized purpose. So yeah, you can spend it on what we've told you can spend it on. If you don't, you will have to refund the money. We're not allowed to be flexible. Thanks, Ty. Couple of websites there. So that's just us, but all gaming sites, go to their sites, check out their venues. G-Mans is the Gaming Machine Association in New Zealand. So a collective of all of them. And then that's the DIA website that Ty brought back earlier, which will tell you about all the venues, which is really useful. Finally, and apologies, I've done this really fast. That's my team. So there's myself, there's Mike, there's Wyoni, there's Ashley. The best tip Ty's given you so far, pick up the phone. A 2-minute conversation could save you 2 days of applying. It's been my adage. I've been on your side of it. I've been applying 30 different trusts, crikey, all the other banks ones, all the Sport New Zealand funds. Have a conversation before you put pen to paper, because it might be that you can't apply for what you want to apply for. It might be that there's no funds in your area. It might be that a venue's change hands. Cool, spend a bit of time on the phone with someone first. I'd rather do it on phone than email. I can deal with a phone call in 3 to 5 minutes rather than getting lost in email chains. So pick up the phone, have a chat to the advisors at the societies that you wish to apply to. It will save you time. We want to put time back into the sector. I don't want people writing applications that are non-compliant, that are for things we can't fund. We want to put time back into the sector. Lots of you out there will be volunteers. I think it's criminal that we've got a system where people are writing applications where they've got no chance of funding. So I'd rather have that conversation first. Final top tips from me. That was one. Pick up the phone. Make sure your form's signed. The amount we get that aren't signed off. Present it well, present it how you'd like to receive it. If you're applying for multiple items, do us a little table, A, B, C, D, and then label things. Far easier. Yeah, and then exactly the main one, know where your local venues are and know who runs those venues. Worth just a drive by in your car. Sometimes the websites are even out of date because it takes a month or two to update them, and they can change hands again in 10 months' time. So do double check your venue before you apply. Apologies, that was very quick. Happy to take questions.
Cheers, thanks for that, Tom. I'll just get the slide ready. Em, if there are any questions, feel free to ask them.
I've got one. It's Lynn Miller from East Coast Base Hockey Club. Hi, Tom.
Hello.
Hi, I'll just put on my video so I don't seem so black.
Yeah.
We applied for a grant out of cycle last year because of COVID. So we couldn't get our grant in at March, and we had to apply in August for a lot less because we didn't have our normal coaching or our normal season. So when I've gone back to apply again now this time round, I'm out of whack because they've told me that I can't apply until August. And really for the last 8 years, I've been applying every March.
Yeah.
So do you think you'll make an exception because of the COVID year that we can go back into our normal routine? Because I really don't, I need to apply now, not wait till August.
No, absolutely. We've done that. So I don't know who you spoke to, but we've done that for many sports because we want to get you back on the right cycles. We want people to take their medicine in this financial year. So that grant would have been smaller this year. And then the opportunity is to go back and get you in the right cycle. And equally, timelining your grants, how Emily was talking about earlier, means that as different sports, cricket isn't going to come in at the same time as rugby, which means you're going to have less competition for the same stuff. So do it 3 months out before the start of your season would be the timeline thinking for you guys, or just before the start of your season, so you've got that capital to use going forward.
Right. And do all your administrators know that? Because I know there was one administrator who said just send it in and chance my luck. But are they all aware? I just don't want it to be declined.
That's something that we talk about all the time. Well, so the administrators they process and then it gets to board, so that they're not the decision-making entity within the organisation anyway. So put it in, we'll have the discussion. I think that probably in this case that administrator's trying to give you a more realistic point of where the funds are in Auckland right now. If you were in the Waikato Bay Plenty and had only been through one lockdown back in last March, funds would be better. But on the North Shore right now, funds are pretty tight because of these continual lockdowns and actually we're not feeling the brunt of them yet, but the loss of 2 key venues on the North Shore for us as well. She might have been trying to give you a sweeter pill to swallow, but certainly in terms of applying, I would do it in line with your season, and the fact COVID got in the way, we can find a way around that.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Cool. Share the screen. Emily, can you see that?
Yeah, all good.
Cool. So we're just going to introduce Mel Sykes, who's from Harbour Sport, our funding advisor, who will take you through RST funds that are available at the moment.
Thanks, Ty. Welcome, everyone. Yes, just a brief overview of Te Manawa Active Aotearoa that we have available with through Harbour Sport. So Te Manawa has replaced Kiwi Sport. Kiwi Sport ran since 2009, and this is a new fund. It's totally different to Kiwi Sport. It's an activation fund over 4 years to provide quality opportunities in the play, active rec and sport sectors for tamariki and rangatahi who are missing out or who are less active. So like Tom said, the bottom of the pyramid, the young people that don't have a lot of activity in their lifestyle. So Sport New Zealand's directive is to make these tamariki and rangatahi have a lifelong love for activity. So that's why Te Manawa has been introduced. Play and active rec are new to this type of government funding. As we know, sport was taken care of with Kiwi Sport, and we've introduced play and active rec. So the three lots of activity are included in this fund. So for this year, we've got priority groups in the tamariki and rangatahi who are missing out and less active. So for this year, we've got these groups who are in higher deprivation communities, basically from the need of what Sport New Zealand's given us. Girls and young women. So young women have been included for this COVID year. So 19 to 24 have been included in this, as they see through COVID last year that they were missing out for either sport or active rec, and disabled children and young people. So they are our priority groups. Any applications within those three realms are considered, obviously a priority. So we review them over the other applications. What type of groups can apply? So again, we have your incorporated societies, charitable trusts. You can see that it's quite a wide range of applicants that we take for profit businesses. And like the Lion Foundation, we just require proof of your charity number or your incorporated society number. Now, what can be funded? So basically this covers, this is widened. This can cover program and project delivery. So that's basically anything to go towards the delivery of that project. So that can be things like obviously coaching costs of the coaches that are delivering the project. That can cover transport. So if the rangatahi or tamariki have a barrier of not being able to get to locations, that can be included. And also coordinator costs, so administration cost for that project to be delivered. So if it took an hour to coordinate the coaching staff to the kids or the school or whatever, that can be included. We also can include equipment. However, please note that we cannot accept projects applications that are equipment only. We're noticing we're getting a lot of funding requests for equipment only, and we can only approve equipment as part of the project delivery. So we want to see those delivery costs of coaching to go with the equipment. Equipment is not assets. We will cover that on what can't be funded. So we cannot fund those equipment that's deemed an asset. We can fund one-off events, which is a great change as well. And as part of that event, we can pay for officials, so referees and the like. We have delivery staff wages there, which I've touched on, new or existing projects, and innovative and creative projects. What can't be funded? Costs of projects that you've just had, more than 1 year. High performance costs, so obviously rep teams, academies, and high performance sport. Capital costs, like I said, so you might think of some things that you might think Te Manawa might allow you to be funded, but no capital costs. Administration and overhead costs, so again, no power, no rent, no lease. If we have a facility hire, we will come back to you. You will need to show us what that facility hire is. We can fund facility hire, but within reason if it's your own building. Prizes, medals, photocopying, marketing, just those admin booklets, those sorts of things, it won't be funded. And applications who already receive Sport New Zealand partnership investment there. So that's what can't be funded. If we go to the next slide, project summary, as Ty and Emily pointed on, when you want to go for funding, you need to have a bit of a plan of what your project looks like, including the activities, who you're targeting, when and where your project will be delivered, and why is it needed. So there's a couple of big points there. Who and why are pretty big points for Te Manawa, especially why at this stage. We as a RST, well, New Zealand RSTs are instructed, we need to see evidence of need in that project. So you get about 250 words. We need to have a big impact on why you want that project needed, and also a summary. I know it's a summary, but you need a little bit of detail in the project. Just giving us a few lines is quite hard to sell to our internal advisory group. So the more information you can give to us, the better. So if we go into the next slide, so this is just some insights to help you think about your evidence of need. So like I touched on, evidence of need is a huge area for Te Manawa. We're wanting to see that you've gone and done your homework and found a need for your sport to go and get these children at the bottom of the pyramid who are currently not active to come and try your sport. Like I say, the clearer you are on the problem, obviously we're wanting more kids into your sport, or the issue that you're trying to address through your project, perhaps they're not accessible. This will be easier to plan and evaluate. So just a few things. Have you clarified your problem, identified your target group? Like I say, that's a huge thing. We also want to see that you've engaged with your target group and gathered the evidence to show why your project will help them. So things that we have seen, voice of participants, surveys, not just asking mum and dad want Johnny to come and have a go. We need to see that Johnny actually wants to have the go. So we want to see that you've gone to them and said, oh yeah, would you be keen if we put this project in? Would you be keen to come along if we put this on? So again, if we look down there, feedback from key enablers, influencers. I mean, it says teachers and coaches there, but generally it's, we want to see, feedback from kids that will give it a go. So if we look at outcomes and measures, again, that's something that you'll need to write. So I like the abbreviation SMART. So whenever you're thinking about an outcome, they need to be SMART, which is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So again, within the time frame of a year, specific to your project. Are they easily measurable? Because you will need to report on that. And are they achievable and realistic? If you're going to give us, oh, we want a project with 1,000 kids, is that going to be achievable and realistic? Maybe not. Don't try and outsell yourself. Te Manawa is all about quality. It's not about numbers driven. It's about encouraging these young children and young people to have a lifelong love of your sport. So if you're going to pump the numbers through, generally they're going to get forgotten about. So, you know, that personal touch is what we're wanting to see, and just be, you know, quantitative and qualitative. So that's a huge thing that's coming through Sport New Zealand, is the storytelling of the success of your project. So while, like I say, numbers is there, it's easy to be measurable with, we're wanting to see what stories you might have of some of your participants. So if we think about things like that, we could say, oh, we're wanting our you know, the well-being, the self-esteem of the participant to increase to a point where they are confident to go through other areas of their life, perhaps. And that's really great as well. And you can measure that, because it would be on a personal survey from the participant. So, you know, surveys, if we look at measures, surveys, participant numbers, feedback from teachers, feedback from parents, all that sort of thing will help you. And also a baseline before you begin the project. So it's easier to, if we were to come in and have a case study with your project, to say, well, this is what the kids were like at the beginning. This is what I've noticed, and a few things about them. So yeah. Now we've popped up an example of an application that we've had come through, a successful application as an example. So this was for Girls in Motion, for recreation and wellbeing at a school. So as you can see, the project summary is wonderful. You can see it's in detail, what they're going to offer, what they're currently doing, sort of, but not, this is the target, the activities, the walks, the skateboarding, the gym. Then we have our program needs. So this is our identified needs. So as you can see, the statistics indicated low numbers of females participating in sport at the local school. It's a brief explanation of COVID and the fact that they're wanting to, they've reviewed how they can get those inactive rangatahi engaged and what they can offer. So they went out, sent out a survey to all the students, and which they responded to, wanting social, non-competitive, female empowering environment where they could partake in active rec in a number of activities. And there you can see the outcomes and the measurements, and who they're working with, their partners. So that's a wonderful, wonderful project. Right, so that's Te Manawa, active Aotearoa. The payments, we've only got currently Fast Fund available, so that's for under $10,000 projects. The timeline is whenever you process your application online through our website, roughly around the following month, the end of the following month, you should have a decision either way. If there's more information that I might need to come back to you on, that will be there as well, but I do try and get them through the 30th of the following month. We have got, our funds are depleting quite quickly at the moment. We do get replenished in June, so hopefully we will get some more money by then. If you are looking at a active Auckland Regional, so that's delivering in not only Harbour but the other three, one of the other three RSTs in the Auckland area, Sport Waitakere, Sport Auckland and CLM, you can go for a regional fund. They currently have a round open for the regional community fund at the moment. That's a unlimited, there's no ceiling amount that you can apply for. And yeah, that closes on the 8th of March. Right. Moving on now to junior players, Tamariki Makaurau. So that's a new fund that's been set up, basically a quick fund. It's opened on the 1st of February. It closes on the 29th of March. It can be an organisation, an organised sports organisation can apply for up to $20,000. So this is basically to support tamariki and rangatahi to continue to be active through organised sport. Particularly where cost of membership or cost to play has been identified as a barrier. So this is for the young people who can't afford it, basically, to help the sports clubs out with covering their membership. Maybe they might need some boots or socks to play, or some shorts. But it has to be essential clothing and equipment. So we've come up with, Active's come up with the Junior Players Fund. What can be funded, membership or other access fees, vouchers. So you might give out vouchers, you know, for people that will apply through your club to get their membership covered, essential sports and clothing. So if you're interested in the Junior Players Auckland Fund, go through to the Active website there at the bottom of the page, onto their funding tab. There's the guidelines in there, and any questions, please don't hesitate to either contact myself or Active. And the final fund that we have, again, a sort of short, sharp fund. It's open on the 1st of March, so not quite open yet. It will close on the 3rd of May. This is the Working Together Tamaki Makaurau. So this is again for sports organisations who are looking to share services to work together. So basically sharing accounting or administration or the like project manager costs, governance setup costs, facilitator costs, independent advisor costs, just to really work together to share services between clubs. So that's up to $20,000 per project. And again, you can go through to the Active Funding website for more information. So that's about, yeah, the 3 funds that Harbour Sport are involved in. Any further information, please head to our website where you'll find the community guidelines, fact sheets, FAQs, school setting document, which you will need if you're looking to deliver in curriculum time. So that's in school time, not morning tea or lunchtime, but during school hours in curriculum time. And of course, our application form. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Mel. Also, thanks, Tom. So just adding on to what Mel said in terms of further support, in terms of written resources, Active do have some toolkits available. So here we have 3 of, I think there's about 15. So in the finance and insurance toolkit, you'll find anything around money, income, saving money. Mel's touched on insights. So if you're looking for some more support or the opportunity to upskill, feel free to check out that toolkit. And also a big nugget that's probably taken out of today from Tom, Emily, myself, and Mel is the plan. And if you need any assistance around that, feel free to check out the planning toolkit. We also ran a planning webinar, which you can find on our website. Here's the details of our key speakers today. So Emily's details are here. We've got Tom's details here, and Mel's here also. We will send these slides out. So I know there's a few links that are involved. So we'll endeavour to get those out in the next few days. We'll also send out a post-webinar survey just to get a bit of feedback on the content of the webinar. Em, is there any questions out there, or does anyone have a question for Tom or Mel around those funds?
There's none in the chat function, but if anyone wants to speak up, they're more than welcome to.
I got a question for Mel. Mel, can you apply for more than one project?
So currently with Harbour Sports funding, we are only taking 1 application per organisation. just because we didn't get the funds that we really need to service our community. So it's only one application per organisation.
Cool, thanks. If there's no questions, we'll Tom, if you've got anything left to say, feel free to.
No, I did see one question / comment around that particular venue that's changed particular provider. Youth Town, for example, will have their own granting criteria. I presume that's more youth focused than anyone else's. So know that criteria and go and make a relationship with them. I'm going to champion that we do quite broad funding across huge sectors, but where other people get it, the best mitigation you can have is to go and have a conversation with their grants team and see what the project is that might work with them. There are some smaller ones out there that only fund certain either ethnicities or certain sports or certain projects. So yeah, they're all different and all got their own criteria. We're a big general one, and you can come to us for anything, but that's probably the most important thing, is that when they do change the criteria for what you can go for a change as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So just once again, I just want to thank Tom and Mel, especially for being on the call today. If there's two things that I've picked up out of this is the need of planning in advance, and pick up the phone. Give either Mel, Tom, or whoever you're dealing with in terms of the grant funder, give them a call, talk through your project, and they could save you a lot of time. Once again, we'll send out the content from this webinar, and yeah, we'll send out a survey post this as well. So yeah, to level 2 tomorrow. Hope everyone stays safe. And then yeah, keep an eye out on our Harbour Sport development page for more opportunities. We'll also have it on the Harbour Sport Facebook page as well. But for now, thank you for tonight, and thank you, Tom and Mel.
Thanks all.
Thank you.